Okay, hello everyone. This is Mr. Taufik going through the mock test that you went through for GA3. This recording is for corrections purposes. So if you listen and do your corrections accordingly, you will be able to score well for your GA3. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the first question. The first question is basically your line graph question. Make sure that you look at the question and look at what type of graph they require you to draw. So for example, this question, they require you to draw a line graph. So draw a line graph instead of a bar graph. Okay. Now remember our TABLE. TABLE. Okay. So that is your checklist. So T is for title, A is for axis, B is for bar or line, L is for legend, and E is for equal intervals. Okay, so remember your TABLE. The mark allocation for this graph, you must have your title, okay, which is here. This is your title. Let me color it. So title followed by your axis. Your both axes must be labeled. Okay, so some of you just label the word recreational, agricultural, industry, domestic. Okay, but we require you to also label uses of water, which is the x-axis and the y-axis, number of participants, followed by your drawing of your line graph. Okay, during exam, please make sure that you draw your line graph or your bar graph using a ruler and pencil. Okay, to make sure that if there's any mistake, you can just simply erase. Okay. The other question is which use of water is perceived to be the most important and the least important. Okay, so most means the highest number, least means the lowest number. So if you look at the table or you look at the graph, the highest number is of course recreational, therefore is the most important, and industry is the least important. Okay, so the answer is here lah. Now, if you look at the other student work that we did, okay, same thing goes. But for this time around, they ask you to draw a bar graph. So make sure that you recognize the question first. Similarly, remember your TABLE, title, followed by your axis, followed by whether it's a bar or line graph. Okay, if there is a different color, you can put your legend below and then followed by equal distances. Okay, so this is how you draw your bar graph. Again, I repeat, for your x-axis, I know some of you just put broadleaves, drip tip, butter straws, waxy leaves. Make sure that you put the word adaptation as well, okay, to ensure that your bar graph is complete. Okay. Similarly, this question is wrong. So which use of which adaptation? Okay, is perceived to be the most important, least important. So most important is the highest number. Least important is the lowest number, which is waxy leaf. So broad leaves is the most important. Waxy leaves is the least important. Okay. Okay. So moving forward, this question very simple. What is ABC? A is emergent, B is canopy, C is undergrowth. Some of you want to put understory, that will be acceptable as well. Make sure that you score this well. This is the easiest way to, easiest marks to score. Okay, as I go along, if you need to pause, just pause it and then you can do your corrections. Now, remember for this question, we reference to figure 1, describe label, layer B. Okay, so when you talk about description, remember the three alphabet: state or S, define or D, example. Okay, so SDE for describe. So when we talk about SDE, I think it is already been facilitated in your website, your Google site. Okay, so you just have to refer to it. Make sure when you do your this type of question, uh, don't just write point form. Okay, we need to write in paragraph form. So layer B of the tropical rainforest is canopy. Don't just write canopy. Uh, Canopy then full stop then layer where blah blah. So it must be a paragraph form. So it must be in proper sentences. Okay, humanities is a language subject. Make sure that you use proper language. Okay, so similarly, with reference to figure 1, describe layer C, which is this layer, SDE for this layer. Okay, state, define, example. Now again, if you want to do corrections, just pause the video and then you can do the corrections for undergrowth and canopy. Okay, but if you want to have more details or more pictures and so on and so forth, more videos, you can just refer to our Google site. All right. Okay. Next, again, this is the adaptation feature, and then there is a arrow pointing to the tip. Okay, for figure 2. So you should know by now this is drip tip. Okay, because this is a described question, just ensure that it is SDE. Okay, state, define, example. So every time you see a described question, you must do SDE. Okay. Now some of you say, sir, can it be glossy, glossy leaves and so on and so forth? So because the arrow is already pointed to the tip, so it is obvious enough that it is drip tip. Okay. Okay, moving forward. Uh, Describe 2 other adaptation features. Okay, so this part here I need to highlight because they say 2 other adaptation features. So if you were to talk about drip tip here, your next question cannot be talk about drip tip. It must be about broadleaves or waxy leaves or whatever. Okay, so uh, you must make sure that you understand this. Okay, because of the word other. So the other means cannot be related to the previous question. Okay, next question. List all the environmental function and human function. I think this is quite straightforward. Uh, these are all the functions. So oxygen, carbon storage, flora fauna, soil erosion is your environmental function. Place for habitat, recreational, food and raw materials are your human functions. Okay. Similarly, describe one environmental function and one human function. Just remember your success criteria of SDE. Okay. This one is very straightforward. The questions are very straightforward. Okay. Again, if you need to copy down and do your corrections, just pause. Okay, the video. Okay, next hydrological cycle. If you look at this cycle, the alphabets, you need to follow the alphabets. So it's purposely jumbled up so that you are aware of the processes accurately. So A is of course condensation because it's from the sun to the clouds and so on and so forth. B is of course from the trees, so it's transpiration. C is evaporation because the lakes to the sun. Okay. E is of course D is of course surface runoff because from the rainwater towards the ground and into the groundwater and so on and so forth. And then E is your precipitation. Okay, or rainfall. Okay, so hydrological cycle again is very simple. Make sure that your spelling is correct because if the spelling is not correct, we may penalize your spelling. Okay, last but not least, identify the different human use of water. So remember RAID, RAID, which means recreational purposes, agricultural purposes, industry, and domestic purposes, or domestic users. Recreational users, agriculture users, industry, and domestic users. The last question, describe 2 human users of water. Make sure that you use your SDE to describe the human use of water. Okay, so with that, I'm done with my corrections. The mock test is very aligned to your test paper for your GHE. So all the best. Thank you.